Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Am I the A-Hole? Story 1 is by Quirky Savings 8676. Am I the a-hole for rejecting my niece's adoption request in front of people? My niece is 14 and has lived with me since her parents went to prison 5 years ago. Drugs. My sister is getting out later this year. She has been working very hard in prison to improve herself and got her GED. We are still very close and we talk via an app the prison provides, and I take her daughter to visit her, who lives with his dad's brother, once a month. We were having a birthday dinner at my mother's for myself and my daughter, 16. Most of my family was there. For my present, my niece decided to give me adoption request papers, or whatever they are. I never ended up reading them. I was stunned and just shook my head. I was so shocked and confused. The plan was she was always supposed to go home. My mother was upset by this request as well as my other siblings, and my husband couldn't think of what to do either. She never brought this up with counseling or anything. I can't do that to my sister. I wouldn't be able to take care of her without support financially from my grandma, who would stop supporting if I agreed. This was never even a thought. Now she and my daughter hate me, it seems. My son, 21, said it was probably something she got from TikTok and she will eventually get over it. My husband agrees with me. My siblings are staying out of it. My nephew isn't speaking to his sister now. It's a mess. Am I the a-hole here? Trying to get an outside opinion. Reddit seems as good a place as any. Edited to add, my sister has a home with lot and a job with my aunt waiting the minute she gets out, since this keeps coming up. Your poor sister, honestly. I don't know why she would have done this. I mean, it's really nice that she loves you so much that she wants to stay with you, I guess. That's a positive, but she shouldn't have done this. This puts you in a really bad situation. Why would she give this to you as a gift to you, too? That's really strange. Never talked to you about it, never brought it up in counseling, just gave it to you as a gift in front of other people. What a horrible situation to be put in. You love her. You've been taking care of her for 5 years. She's not thinking if she's doing something like that. Down in the comments by Stranger on Reddit, not the a-hole. Yes, your immediate response could have been better, but you were in a state of shock and caught off guard, so I think it was understandable. Did your niece have help from an adult to get these adoption request papers? If so, was this person aware that she was always supposed to go back to her mom? If you haven't done so already, talking to both your niece and daughter separately about why you didn't agree to the request is probably in order. Underneath that by the OP. I have no clue how they got them. My son thinks it's internet. They talked a little to him but refused to speak to me or my parents. Counseling was happening later today for my niece, going to try to get some for my daughter set up. Under that by North Tumbleweed 472. Does your niece want to go back to her mother after she's released from prison? It sounds like she's scared of losing the only stable home she's ever known and being shoved back with someone who she probably remembers as being an unstable addict who cared more about drugs than her own child. She's been in prison for a big chunk of this little girl's life. Does she have the option to stay with you if she really hates being kept by your sister? Under that by FryGod. Not only is she scared, but with both of her parents having been in the system, the deck is now heavily stacked against them ever achieving any sort of economic stability as a result of jobs that are simply closed off to them now. The poor kid's chance of success in high school is basically effed if she goes into her mother's custody. And underneath that again by the OP, my sister has a place and a job waiting for her when she gets out. She will be right down the road from me. It's a cute little place too. My nephew is very excited and he's been repainting it to surprise his mother. She will be employed and housed in a decent environment the minute she gets out, and frequently drug tested as she will be on parole. I agree that she just sounds really scared. I can't imagine what her house would have been like. It must have been quite unstable, so she's afraid. If you make it clear to her that she can come visit you whenever she wants, you're just not going to do the whole adoption thing, I think she'll forgive you. I don't know why your daughter would be mad about it, though. Maybe your daughter had a hand in the whole adoption paper thing. Our next story is by Existing Ad 6615. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's in-laws that their daughter will never deserve to be my mother, and that's why she hasn't adopted me? I'm a 15 male. I was adopted once already. My biological mother did not want to be a parent, and she walked out when I was born. My dad met my mom when I was still a baby, and she adopted me when I was 2, a few months after they got married. She was the best mom ever, and I miss her every single day. She died when I was about 6, and losing her has really messed me up. I still struggle sometimes with not having my mom. My dad isn't the most emotional or warm guy, which meant I lost the parent who knew how to comfort me. Luckily, my grandparents, mom's parents, were like my mom and were that comfort for me. It wrecked me more when Dad started dating less than a year after my mom died and remarried before my mom had been gone for 2 years. I hate my dad's wife. She assumes that because my mom wasn't biologically my mother and because she died when I was just 6, it meant she could be replaced easier than any other parent. Her attitude towards my mom has been crappy from day one. She even said my mom told me I was adopted when she could have passed me off as her own since I was so young, and the fact that she didn't meant she wasn't really my mom, she was just playing a role. My dad is just too cold to give a crap, I think. I think he likes having someone else around to raise his kid and now has 3 kids, 2 with his wife, and he wants whatever his wife does to keep her happy. So he looked into another adoption of me. But they were told, given my age at the time, no adoption would happen if I wasn't okay with it. They tried to find out if they could pay more to have it happen, but they were told they would pay and then get rejected. And I will never say yes. I would rather be in foster care than be adopted by her. We fight a lot. We don't get along. But she tries to claim me as hers, and it bothers her to be rejected by someone who never even knew his real mother. I always point out that I do have a real mom. She died when I was 6, and Dad's wife will never be as good as her or worthy of filling in for her. It's tense, it's toxic, and I know my only escape is when I can force my dad to let me stay with my grandparents for a few hours of a night or 2, which isn't often. His wife hates that I still have them in my life, so he refuses often for her. My dad's in-laws are staying with us for a few weeks, visiting their grandkids. And Sunday we had dinner together, and unfortunately they asked when she was finally going to adopt me because it was crazy that she had kids with my dad but hadn't adopted me when I'm motherless. I told them I'm not. My mom died, but she's still my mom. They said that it wasn't right and their daughter has been my mom longer and she deserves to have it be official. I told them she's never been my mom and never will deserve to be my mom, which is why I will never let the adoption happen. The whole day went to crap, and I was sent to my room, and then on Monday I was told to apologize, and when I didn't, it was stated by all 4 adults that I was an ungrateful brat. Am I the a-hole? It's mind-boggling to me that there's so many stories on here from kids who have a stepmom that really wants to bond with them and talks crap about their prior mom. Like, it happens all the time in these stories. What planet do these people live on where that's okay? And that's going to make them bond with you. She was never really your mother. She adopted you. And if she really wanted to be closer to you, she could have lied to you and made it seem like you were actually her child because you were too young at the time. You don't bond with a kid by lying to them. It sounds like your stepmom here is the ungrateful brat, and your dad is a jerk for supporting her. Down in the comments by individual ad 9213, not the a-hole, ask your grandparents if you can go live with them, and if they say yes, petition the court to make them your guardians. Under that by the OP, it wouldn't be easy. Even though I have a relationship with them, the fact that they're not my biological family would make guardianship next to impossible. I wish it wasn't, but they did speak to a lawyer to find out if they could, since legally they are my grandparents. Under that by RRhead 926. In the U.S., when you're adopted, all ties to biological family are legally severed, and your adoptive family becomes yours as if you were born into it. Your adoptive grandparents actually have more standing than your biological mother's parents would. I can't speak to how it works in other countries. It sounds like you've got some legal things to look into. If you can go live with your grandparents instead, your dad right now is toxic, too. If he's just going to do everything to make her happy and she's talking crap about your initial adoptive mother who raised you, It sounds like he needs a wake-up call, and maybe you leaving would be the way to do that. Our next story today is by Emergency Ship 4791. Am I the a-hole for arguing back when my parents were disappointed I didn't name my daughter after my late aunt? My aunt died 2 weeks before I got pregnant. When I announced, the expectations were on me to name my daughter Elizabeth after my aunt if the baby was a girl. My aunt had Down syndrome and was so beloved and special to our family. I adored her too, but I never wanted to name my daughter Elizabeth. I had my own reasons for not liking the name Elizabeth, and my husband feels the same. To us wanting to give our child their own name, that is not a family name. I told my family during my pregnancy that if my baby was a girl, she would not be named Elizabeth, and I refused to communicate about it afterwards. My daughter was born 3 weeks ago, and my family were furious when we announced her name, and it wasn't Elizabeth. They believed I would change my mind between when I told them and the birth, mostly due to the fact that I was aware they didn't approve. They came over on Sunday and told me I was wrong and asked how Elizabeth would feel if she knew I hadn't wanted to name my daughter after her. They told me it was an unkind thing to do and that my daughter would have been blessed to be named after her special great aunt. I told them talking like this is one of the reasons I wouldn't want that. I said my daughter deserves her own name and not one where she will always be told she should feel blessed or grateful to be named after my aunt. They told me I was being ridiculous and I was making excuses. I told them they were right, and I didn't need to make any to them because it was none of their business. They wouldn't let up, so I told them to go and not to reach out unless they can accept my daughter is not Elizabeth. My family told me arguing with them was not the way to conduct myself. They argued first, but I did argue back. So am I the a-hole? I'm thinking this is a cultural thing. That is my guess here. Like family banding together and getting all mad because the name wasn't kept in the family is usually a cultural thing. Maybe it's not though. If somebody wants to do that on their own accord, name their kid after somebody they lost that they love, it's nice when that happens. But if you don't want to do that on your own, you should never be pressured into naming your child after somebody who recently died in a family. That puts a big cloud over the birth of the baby. Here's your name. It was somebody else we all cared for that recently died, and we all still feel it, so that's all we can think of, and your baby needs to be named that. That's so stupid. Down in the comments by Jax Valentine 91. Not the a-hole. You are laying down the law. Your daughter has a name. They know the name. They call her that name. How would someone feel if they dated a guy, met his parents, and they kept calling her Jessica because they always thought their son would be a Jessica? How would your aunt feel if she knew her memory was being used as something to drive a wedge in the family during what should be a celebration of new life and love and family? I really hope they don't hold on to this because it would be awful for you to tell stories of your great aunt only for your family to keep bringing up that you were almost named after her, but your mom didn't want to. She's your baby. Stand your ground, or they'll keep disrespecting your decisions. Underneath that by Ophelia's Dinosaur. Quoting the above poster, how would your aunt feel if she knew her memory was being used as a wedge? 1,000,000 times this. Not the a-hole, but throw this at them every time they do it. Elizabeth would have loved her great niece no matter what her name is, and so should they. It's time for them to grieve and start moving on in a healthy way, not latching their grief onto new life to keep Elizabeth's memory alive. Congratulations on your new baby girl. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a pleasurable day.